This is Indonesia, one of the most beautiful and most complicated countries in the world. It has fire-spitting volcanoes, dense rainforests, and stunning beaches. It's a truly unique country where over 270 million people live across more than 17,000 islands. Yeah, 17,000 islands. Indonesia is the largest island nation on Earth, stretching over 5,000 kilometers, spread across 3 different time zones, from Sumatra in the west to Papua in the east. It's the 4th most populous country in the world, the largest Muslim-majority nation, and one of the most ethnically and linguistically diverse places on the planet. But behind all this beauty, there's a hidden story. How did a country spread across 17,000 islands even come into existence? Who ruled these lands before Indonesia became a country? How did so many different islands, cultures, and peoples end up under one flag? And the biggest question of all, how do you govern a country scattered across oceans? To understand Indonesia, we have to travel back in time, because this isn't just a country. It's one of the strangest experiments in modern history, trying to unite thousands of islands, cultures, and volcanoes into one nation. By the end of this video, you'll understand how Indonesia has stayed united so far and how it could also fall apart in the future. Hundreds of years ago, these islands were home to some of Asia's richest and most powerful kingdoms. People had lived here for thousands of years, farming the land and trading by sea. These islands sat between 2 massive civilizations, India and China. So traders constantly passed through, bringing gold, ideas, and even religious beliefs with them. Over time, powerful empires emerged. One of the earliest was the Srivijaya kingdom in Sumatra around the 7th century. It became a major trading hub, controlling sea routes and taxing ships that passed through. It also turned into a center of Buddhism, attracting scholars from all over the world. Later, in the 13th and 14th centuries, the Majapahit Empire rose in Java. It ruled over many islands and was famous for its art, architecture, and strong governance. Hinduism dominated, and at its peak, Majapahit was the most powerful empire in Southeast Asia. But no empire lasts forever. As trade expanded and new powers emerged, these kingdoms weakened. Local rulers started fighting among themselves, and that's when Islam arrived, spreading through trade in the 13th century. Merchants from Muslim lands impressed locals with their conduct, and gradually, many Indonesians embraced Islam. Just as things were settling down, something massive was approaching from across the ocean. Ships weren't coming to trade anymore. They were coming to rule. In the early 15th century, ships from the other side of the world arrived, different languages, different flags, powerful weapons. These were the Portuguese, and they were chasing one thing: spices. Back then in Europe, cloves, nutmeg, and pepper were worth more than gold, and Indonesia's Maluku Islands were packed with them. These islands became known as the Spice Islands, and everyone wanted control. Soon after the Portuguese, the Dutch showed up, and they weren't here just to trade either. In 1602, they founded the Dutch East India Company, the world's first multinational corporation. Its mission was simple: monopolize the spice trade. They built forts, made deals with local rulers, and when deals failed, used force. Slowly, the Dutch pushed out the Portuguese and took control. Local kingdoms were either destroyed or forced to submit. And this wasn't just about spices anymore. The Dutch wanted land, labor, and resources, and that marked the beginning of 300 years of colonial rule. They built Batavia, modern-day Jakarta, started sugar, coffee, and tobacco plantations, seized land, collected heavy taxes, and crushed any resistance. But Indonesians never gave up. The dream of freedom survived, and by the early 1900s, it turned into a movement. The Dutch thought they were in full control. They were wrong. The 1940s changed everything. World War II erupted, and a new power, Japan, swept into Southeast Asia. By 1942, Japan had taken over Indonesia. At first, many Indonesians believed Japan might help free Asia from European rule. That hope didn't last. Life under Japanese occupation became brutal. Forced labor, starvation, suffering. But one thing changed forever. The fire for independence burned even stronger. Japan trained local Indonesians for its military needs, but that training would later backfire. In 1945, the U.S. dropped atomic bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Japan surrendered. And suddenly, Indonesia saw its moment. On August 17, 1945, just 2 days after Japan's surrender, Sukarno and Muhammad Hatta declared Indonesia independent. It was bold, it was risky, and the Dutch refused to accept it. For 4 years, Indonesia fought back in battles and through diplomacy in what became known as the Indonesian National Revolution. Finally, in 1949, under global pressure, the Dutch gave up. Indonesia was free. But independence was just the beginning. Now came the real challenge: running a country made of 17,000 islands, hundreds of cultures, and dozens of languages. Java alone holds half the country's population, around 140 million people. Major islands like Sumatra, Sulawesi, and Kalimantan have their own identities. Thousands of smaller islands each carry their own language, culture, and history. Indonesia is insanely diverse. 700 languages, 1,300 plus ethnic groups, Muslims, Christians, Hindus, Buddhists, all living together. So how did they keep it all together? With one powerful idea: Bhinneka Tunggal Ika, unity in diversity. Instead of choosing Javanese as the national language, leaders chose Bahasa Indonesia, simple, neutral, and easy to learn. No group felt dominated. They made Jakarta the capital, built roads, schools, ports, and airports to connect distant islands. Still, unity wasn't easy. Some regions resisted: Aceh, Papua, and East Timor, which eventually became its own country in 2002. On top of politics, Indonesia faces nature itself. It sits on the Pacific Ring of Fire, with 130 active volcanoes, frequent earthquakes, tsunamis, floods, and landslides. The 1883 Krakatoa eruption was so loud it was heard 4,800 kilometers away, triggering tsunamis that killed 36,000 people. In 2004, a 9.1 earthquake off Sumatra triggered a tsunami that killed over 230,000 people across multiple countries, one of the deadliest disasters in modern history. And Jakarta? It's slowly sinking up to 25 centimeters in some areas due to groundwater extraction and rising sea levels. That's why Indonesia is building a new capital, Nusantara, on Borneo, an expensive move with environmental costs. Transportation is another nightmare. You can't build highways across oceans. Some villages can only be reached by plane or days of trekking. Java's traffic is so bad that a 100 kilometers drive can take 8 to 9 hours. Internet access is uneven. About 73% of Indonesians are online, but nearly 70 million people still aren't. Some islands see a doctor once a month. Some schools don't even have electricity. The government has poured billions into ports, roads, airports, and internet, but covering 17,000 islands is insanely hard. Indonesia isn't just a country. It's a massive puzzle held together by history, geography, struggle, vision, and unity. From Bali's temples to Java's mosques, from Papua's rainforests to Sumatra's beaches, Indonesia is one of the most unique and fascinating nations on Earth, and it was never meant to be easy. If you enjoyed this video, share it. We'll see you in the next one with another fascinating topic. Take care. Allah Hafiz.